Welcome, eternal traveler. Each journey here is a whisper of the mystical and a touch of the divine. If touching the source wisdom speaks to your spirit, please like, subscribe, and share. Now relax, and let's begin. The Jaguar on the road. After what felt like a short nap, I found myself lucid in the middle of what appeared to be a Catholic wake in upstate New York. I couldn't explain why I knew that or why the atmosphere felt so specific, because nothing about Catholic tradition is personally familiar to me. And yet the room carried the cold aftertaste of ritual, dark pews, murmured conversations, and the kind of gray, drizzling light outside that makes the world feel halfway between heaven and nowhere. It was the kind of place where you instinctively lower your voice, even if you don't know who you're honoring and don't know why you're there. I climbed a small set of stairs at the back of the room and stepped into an open balcony area where a lone man stood with a drink in his hand. Older, thin gray hair combed back, slacks, and a slightly wrinkled button-up shirt. His posture carried a strange mix of authority and confusion, as if he wasn't sure whether he belonged here or whether everyone else did. Then it hit me with a quiet shock. This was the man whose wake we were attending. And yet here he was, upright, breathing, and studying the sparse crowd that had shown up to honor him. In life, he had been influential in the kind of political circles where corruption is considered a necessary skill. People followed him, feared him, adored him, and despised him, sometimes all in the same breath. He ruled by pressure and charm, manipulating entire networks of people without ever once recognizing the weight of his own shadow. And now, only a handful had come. He didn't notice. He didn't even know he was dead. I felt a peculiar sympathy rise in me. A softness for someone who had spent his life believing he was powerful, only to find himself standing in the quiet truth of how little that meant. And just like that, the scene dissolved and shifted without warning. Suddenly, I was stepping out of the back seat of an old Studebaker, the kind of car that looked like it remembered more than the people who drove it. Before I could take in my surroundings, two men in trench coats and fedora hats approached me. Their movements were stern, rehearsed, official. Clipboard in one hand, pencil in the other, eyes scanning me as though I had arrived carrying secrets they were entitled to extract. Their presence felt connected to the dead man, as if the residue of his authority was still trying to interrogate the living. They closed in fast, overbearing, pushing questions I didn't understand. And then a voice behind me said quietly, "You don't have to tell them anything." That was enough. I turned and walked away, and the entire moment folded in on itself like paper. The next thing I realized, I resurfaced on an abandoned dirt road. Long, narrow, and almost forgotten by time. Grass had begun reclaiming it, nature pulling threads loose from what humans once insisted belonged to them. The air felt cool, the sky overcast, and the atmosphere strangely paused. Tire grooves cut through the path, fossilized in the earth by years of travel that had suddenly stopped. In the far distance, something moved. Fast, too fast. The shape grew larger with impossible speed, and my body recognized it before my mind did. It was a jaguar. A predator wearing the muscle of lightning. Instinct rose before fear. A barrier formed around me, a three-quarter dome, transparent yet solid, like thick molded resin. The moment I desired protection, the dome just appeared. The jaguar didn't slow down. It crashed through the barrier, tearing a clean hole just wide enough for its body to pass, and kept sprinting towards something beyond me. I stood untouched, the air still trembling from its speed. Protection had been instant and complete. Then again, quite abruptly, everything slipped into darkness again, and I was knocking on an apartment door in a narrow hallway. My stepmother opened it, greeting me with a soft familiarity that didn't match the surrounding timeline. The place felt like a version of life that could have been, or once was, or never actually happened. "Your dad's resting on the couch," she said. "I'm cooking dinner." Inside, the apartment was tiny but spotless, a sense of borrowed peace tucked into every corner. I stepped toward the couch where a figure lay under a quilt. My dad, unmistakably, though I never saw his face. My stepmom arrived with a pan of meatloaf and wanted us to check if it was done. My dad extended only his arm from beneath the covers and pressed his hand onto the meatloaf, squeezing it, testing it in the strangest, most unsettling way. The sight was so bizarre that I felt myself recoil internally. "Don't do that," I told him. "I can see it's done." The moment vibrated with the awkwardness of old dysfunction, folded between timelines like a page never meant to be reopened. Then everything turned to darkness again, and a new scene emerged in pale moonlight. I was standing inside an old barn, illuminated only through the cracks in the aging boards. The air carried the scent of dust and wood soaked with memory. No animals, just silence waiting to be noticed. When I turned, I saw a woman in the pale lunar glow, older, elegant, and beautiful in a way that wasn't about youth but about presence. She watched me without speaking, without moving, but the invitation was unmistakable. I stepped closer. I boldly leaned in. Our lips met, and the sensation was startlingly real, and filled with an intimacy that didn't require history or explanation. Then everything I had traveled through in my lucid dream dissolved into stillness, and I felt my conscious awareness ease itself back into this present world I call waking life. The fog cleared, my breathing returned, and I gently opened my eyes. Looking back on these scenes, I can feel the hidden architecture beneath them, the way consciousness arranges symbols into story and story into revelation. The funeral showed me the illusion of worldly power. The man who thought himself untouchable stood as an observer in his own wake, unaware of who he had been or what he had left behind. He was a fragment of me, the part that forgets who I am when I become too identified with roles, influence, or ego's hunger. The Studebaker interrogation represented the remnants of old authority structures, internal and external, that still try to demand answers from me. The quiet voice telling me I didn't have to comply was my sovereignty returning. The Jaguar was raw fear, accelerating at impossible speed. But fear can only break through what's brittle. It could not harm me because I remembered who I was long enough to stand in my own field of protection. The apartment scene revealed lingering family energies, old dynamics, strange rituals, the awkward and unspoken things we carry in silence. Even there, I saw the edges of boundaries I'm still learning to define. And the barn, the moonlight, and the woman waiting in the quiet. She was connection without identity, touch without story. A reminder that intimacy doesn't come from the past, it comes from presence. Every scene was myself. Every figure was myself. Every moment was another mirror revealing another layer of the one consciousness I call me. Until the next time. And so it is.